Hello, welcome to Telling You Like It Is. On the other side of the screen, there's a lifelong friend, best man at my wedding, Glenn Allen, great filmmaker, Emmy Award winner twice, Oscar winner once. We're here today to talk about top 10 sports movies of all time. A daunting task, Glenn. Thanks for coming down today.
Yeah, thanks, Shoes. This was really, really difficult. There's so many great sports movies, and it was so hard to narrow it down. I just, as a movie fan and a sports fan and an athlete, it's almost impossible. But it's a great fun debate.
Yeah,
And movies are like music. No way that they're all subjective. So my list is going to be different than anybody else's list.
sure.
That's how it goes.
That's what makes the world go around. That's what we want. But the thing is, remember you were saying too, it's kind of like a sports season. It's kind of like music. It's so many different things and so many different people. I mean, I'm a movie addict. I watch so many movies. It's just something I still enjoy doing for in recreational time. I mean, like Friday, Saturday night, I'm always watching a movie.
Me too. I mean, I grew up loving movies and playing sports. It's like my two great loves.
Yeah, and here you are in the movie business, and I'm
Yeah, there are a
coaching
lot
baseball.
of there are a lot of parallels too. We were just talking about it, how the movie directors like the head coach, the athletes are like the actors, craftsmen like myself. We're the coaches and trainers, and offensive and defensive coordinators, and it takes about as long to make a movie as it does to go through a sports season. And the goal, of course, is to do the best you can, and sometimes you win it all
Now,
if you win a award, or
now,
something.
now, now, let me ask you: when you're in a season as a coach, you could feel that magic happening. When you're making a movie, you can feel that magic while it's going on.
100%, 100%. One of them is that poster behind me. Apollo 13 was like that. It was pretty early in my career, and we just knew it was loaded with talent, and everyone brought their A game, and
Wow.
it just came together great. And it did not win Best Picture, but the two editors I worked for, uh, directly underneath, they won the Oscar for Best Editing, and we knew it. We just knew it. We worked really hard on the movie, and yeah, we knew there was something magical about that.
Yeah, and when you're in it, you don't want to touch the money and talk about it. You just want to enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah. No one. Yeah, we never even thought about what it could be. You don't think about
Right.
winning awards when you're making a movie. You're just trying
No,
to
no.
do the best you can.
Yeah, you just it's like coaching. You play till the horn sounds, and then you realize, oh, I won the game.
Yeah, and on the opposite side, no one sets out to make a bad movie.
Right.
But
Sure.
sometimes the ingredients just don't mix
Right.
for it's a million reasons. Like a sports team, it could be anything. It could be injuries. It could be
Sure.
attitudes. It could be you just you do the best you can, and sometimes that when all the pieces come together, you get a magical movie.
Yeah, I know. In one year when I was working with Mike Ryan, who you remember played baseball
Yeah,
with us,
yeah.
we were playing at assistant coach with him at St. Anthony's in 2005. And basketball is a lot about styles of play. And I always say that team was a symphony. Watching that team was just like, I hate to be corny, but it was beautiful basketball. And we won the state, we won the federation. That team was just like a symphony because they were just such smart players. They just moved freely. They were just great players, and it was just really like I still watch DVDs that had those games. It just I don't think I'll ever get to see the symphony like that again for my own personal teams. It's just so hard at the high school level. We had 5 college players starting. It was just
Yeah, that's like the movie that you're flipping around the channels and a great movie comes on. You can't turn it off. You
no.
just it's got something about it.
It's funny you say that because one of the things I always judge a movie on and music is when it comes on the TV or comes on the radio. Music's case, do I ever flip by it? And if my answer is no, I put them in my top movies because some I just like. I guess the other night I tried to pass by Rocky, but I couldn't do it.
No, you can't. It's impossible. It was on the other night. I
Yep,
saw it. It was
yep,
Tuesday night. I saw it. I turned it on. It was round one.
yep. I just can't. I can't go past it. But so many of those. So I got a question for you. Two questions for you. No, do you want to? Should we put any outliers on the selection process as far as dates or types of movies or anything?
Well, in order to narrow down the list, I had to do that. because there's just too many.
Right.
So here's what I excluded from the
Okay.
list. Well, first of all, I started 1975 and sooner
Okay.
is when I
75
started.
post, post
That's when I
75.
started watching movies, really started getting into sports, getting into movies, and so I had to cut it off there.
Right.
Unfortunately, a lot of great movies didn't make the list because of that, but there had to be some kind of boundaries. And then no documentaries are
Okay.
on my list. Also, great documentaries. When We Were Kings, Icarus came out a few years ago about the doping scandal.
Sure.
Hoop Dreams. I mean, there's
Hoop Dreams is a
great
wonderful
movies.
movie. So who would be left out from pre 1975? I guess Brian's Song, you said, right?
Brian's Song is the one that stands out. Bang the Drum Slowly, Pride of the Yankees.
Oh yes.
You mentioned great. You mentioned Great White Hope.
Oh, love that movie.
So there's a lot of good ones, but I don't know. I just, like I said, I had to narrow it down.
Sure.
That was the turning point. I said when I was sort of old enough to really get into movies. So,
Sure.
and then I also excluded horse racing, car racing, billiards, and bowling. I mean,
Okay.
whether or not those are sports, that's another show, I guess. But
Sure. Yeah.
I kept those off the list.
Sure. There's some great golf movies and great horse racing movies. But
Well,
you're
golf
right.
is in. Golf is in, believe
Yep.
it or not.
We have to narrow it down. It's hard, But
Yeah.
the other question I had for you is, I know when I watch a movie, I'm just looking to be entertained, I guess. Your deep understanding of filmmaking, when you watch these movies, even just for enjoyment or for making a list, does that influence you? The knowledge you have of filmmaking?
Absolutely. Yeah, it does. It does. Somebody once said to me, well, how could you really enjoy a movie? Aren't you so busy examining all this? And, I do examine things, but I do, as a movie fan, I feel the movie, I enjoy the movie like anybody in an audience. But I am looking at, and I'm not sitting there with a pen and paper and taking notes of the cinematography, but I'm just I enjoy it even more, I think, because
Sure.
I'm kind of aware of all these things that it takes to make a good movie. I'm looking at the cinematography, the editing, the production design, the acting.
Sure.
The music is really important.
Sure.
So it's one of the things that where I differ with my wife. She, who you've known forever, she doesn't like to watch a movie more than once
Yeah, Catherine, same way.
because she knows what happens.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
me, it's a great movie. I can watch it 10 times.
Me too.
And I'll just say, why is this working so great? And usually it's like we said before, it's a combination of all these things coming together at the right time and the right talent in the right way. And the director's a big part of that.
Yeah.
I enjoy movies maybe more than a lot of people. I don't know.
It's funny you say that. Catherine will say that too, but except when it comes to The Notebook, we can watch that 4,000 times.
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling's on the screen, or Superman with the Henry Cavill. If he's on the screen, then we have allowances.
Yeah. And I like silly movies as much as anybody.
Sure.
I'm not a film historian. I'm not a
Right.
film snob. I don't think.
Right.
I like, and there's a silly movie on the list too, but
you have a silly one on there? Which one you got?
well, Caddyshack is on there.
Oh, Caddyshack's great.
And that's it's just so
The dialogue is unbelievable.
it's yeah. But you can look at it now and say, well, the cinematography,
Yeah. So
this
funny.
and that, and some of the acting, but
Classic Rodney.
so yeah, I enjoy it. I'm a movie fan first.
Good. The other thing too is, like, I know that I'll catch so many more things the more times I watch a movie. I'm not looking at the movie stuff, but I'll see something maybe I didn't see before. And so like the other night we were watching Rocky, and you even forget, the first scene, because sometimes you're flipping by, you catch it at different points in the movie, but just that first scene, where he's just basically, walking down the street, and you got the doo-wop band in the background. How good that doo-wop band in the background was.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So I'm sitting there trying to look up who these guys are and if they're in music now, and I couldn't find out, but I was like, wow, these guys were great.
Well, one of those guys was Stallone's brother,
Wow, I didn't know that.
Frank Stallone. Yeah, he
Wow.
wrote the tune.
Wow, just they were good. You could hear their voices. I was like, man, we got to hire these guys.
Yeah, he's Frank Stallone was a film composer.
Yeah, I have to say, there's something romantic about those movies to me because I remember waiting online in '76 for Star Wars and '77 for Rocky, just waiting online for hours, and I didn't care. I waited,
Yeah, I
and I
know.
loved.
I know. It's changed. It's evolved which is my number 10. I don't know if you want to go 10 to 1 or 1 to 10, but my number 10 is sort of about the evolution of sports.
Sure, 10. We'll go from 10 to 1. We'll have that little countdown. But do you have any do you have any honorable mention before you want to get started on your list here?
Yes. Honorable mention. One of them goes to Kevin Costner.
Great, great actor.
And yeah, I have to say, I'm not the biggest fan of his acting, but
Okay,
I have to say he's a great sports fan, obviously.
sure,
He's done, Field of Dreams, Bull Durham, For
sure,
the Love of the Game,
sure.
Tin Cup, Draft Day.
Wow.
He's obviously a huge sports fan, and those movies did not make my top 10.
Wow.
And
Okay.
I had to watch them again recently. I watched them again just to see why they're on a lot of people's lists,
Right.
but they just didn't quite cut it. But I'll give Costner. I'm sure if I met the man, I would love him and say he's the greatest
Sure.
actor of all time.
The funny thing is, I've been asking hundreds of people for any sports movie. How about you? Have you been asking people all week? Or?
Everybody,
Yeah.
everybody. I asked Ron Howard, who I worked
Awesome.
for 10 years, and yeah, and we have a lot of the same films.
Great. Great.
And Ron obviously is a big sports fan.
Sure, he is.
He did Rush, one of the movies that's not on my list. He did Rush, and Cinderella Man, of course, which close, did not make my top 10. Great movie.
Sure. Now, what are the? I guess we have to define before we get started. What makes the best sportsman? Like how we judging him? Because I know we gave the outliers with years and certain sports and documentaries, but like what are we looking for? To be moved, to be historically accurate? History has no part in it. Like what are we looking for? What do you think?
Well, like before I was saying, the great ones have a lot of things in it. I think the overriding factor is the heart
Okay.
of the movie.
Okay.
The underdog is one.
Sure.
Doing everything it takes, trying your best.
Right.
Making something of yourself. It's the things that you learn in sports. What sports teaches us, right?
Yes. Oh gosh,
You
much.
learn so much about yourself playing a sport, and
Yeah.
you kind of, a lot of these movies that I picked, to some unlike Caddyshack, but most, it's about rising, rising off the canvas.
Sure. Yeah.
And making something, and and it's that inner strength
Sure.
that
Sure.
that's what it's about.
Yeah. It's I know like the personal struggle like you're talking about is to me, but it's so many great flicks. As a history person, like for me, it's like as a history person and a coach, I guess the ones that actually happen touch me the most, but still there's some of that are obviously like Field of Dreams touch me a great deal because of my love of baseball. And
Yeah.
I love James Earl Jones and just love that movie so much. Or The Natural, just again, love of baseball and hitting that home run and it's just stuff like that. But the personal struggle is definitely a big thing for me. But
It's those universal themes, that everybody can relate to.
sure. Yeah,
I think that's what makes it for most of these movies.
Sure. Okay, so we'll start from 10 and we can count down and
All right.
discussion. We could share any facts about the
Oh,
movies.
by the way, there was one other honorable mention
Sure.
before we get to that. The football movie.
Sure.
There's not a football movie on my list because Brian's Song was 1971 and I'm
Yes.
starting 1975.
Sure.
I mean, there's been so many really, really good football movies. I'll just look at Blindside, Concussion, Longest Yard, Jerry Maguire, We Are Marshall, Remember the Titans, Friday Night Lights, which I saw last night.
Great movie.
Invincible, Any Given Sunday, Rudy.
Yeah. Invincibles. Oh my goodness, Rudy.
If I had a top 25, then there'd probably be 10 football movies in that.
Yeah, there's so many special ones there. I know Remember the Titans. To me, I recruited a basketball player from that high school in Virginia, and being a person who teaches the civil rights movement, busing is the issue in that movie that they're talking about there. And
Yeah,
so
they
for me, it hits so many levels,
there are a lot of really good ones, and I like Friday Night Lights, which I saw last night. I don't know if the modern football, the great football movie has been made yet.
Right.
I think they get enamored with the bone crushing tackle.
Sure.
Like Friday Night Lights it was progressing in a great way, and then it sort of leveled off.
Right.
It just stayed there, and then again, talking about how all the elements combined make a great movie. I did not like the music. It really stood out to me last night when I was watching it, going, man, they missed the mark here.
Sure.
But that's okay. Still, it's a good movie. It's, instead of a walk-off home run, it's a base clearing double.
Sure. I guess for me, the football and the boxing have so many different movies I've loved over time. I guess the personal struggle of boxing. But there've been it's just like you said, there's been so many great football movies, but top 10 is a hard list to crack.
Yes. And Brian's song would be in there.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I mean, if you can keep it, if you don't cry during that movie, I don't know how you do it. I want your secrets.
I know. I watched it. I watched clips of it, and it was just great performances too.
When Philly D gets up there, I lost it again. It's like I know it's coming. Sometimes I try to go to the kitchen, but I stay.
Yeah, if you go top, if it was the top sports movies in the last 70 years, and Brian's song's in there.
Absolutely. So what do you got for number 10 there?
So number 10, I'll tell you why I put it on the list. Number 10 is Moneyball.
Okay, great.
Great movie. I'm going to share the screen quickly. So, Moneyball made number 10. And I think it's an important movie because the age we live in now, I think analytics and technology is really changing sports.
Sure.
I remember when I read this book, and I'm thinking, how in the world are they going to make a movie out of this? It blew my mind. I couldn't figure that out.
Great.
And then, of course, the writer, who is Aaron Sorkin, who I got to work with on Trial of the Chicago 7. And I look at some of his movies, A Few Good Men, West Wing, Social Network.
Wow.
Trial of the Chicago. These are really complex ideas, right?
Right.
And he pulled it off.
Wow.
He pulled it off in a great way. Moneyball, Tim, it's changed sports. I don't know how it's changed basketball as much as baseball.
Right. Well, the 3-point shot has changed it because the analytics of Rick Pitino used to say, if you only got to shoot 33% from 3 equals 50% from 2. And if you do the math, he's 100% right. So that's Rick Pitino started out. I got to tell you a funny story about Moneyball. I'm a diehard Oakland A's fan.
Of course.
Now, I watched all those teams with Scott Hatterberg and all those guys because I have the satellite dish. I got it in 2001. I watched the A's every night and open up on Thursday. I have the confession to make because Billy Beane drives me crazy. Great talent evaluator. I've protested and never watched Moneyball.
You got to check that.
Everybody goes, "Oh, you must love Moneyball." I go, "No," because his belief never has produced me a World Series.
That's true.
Now I understand that we were close, but Mariano kept taking care of business against us. We only got to play 8 innings against the Yankees every game because
my Yankees. Well, that's what amazed me about that movie. It's like, how do you make a movie? And it's the one movie on the list where the main character is not a coach or a player.
Right.
And now everyone sits at home now with their fantasy. This is my fantasy football show.
Nice.
Wizard doing the Heisman pose.
Excellent.
Everyone is Billy Beane, right?
Sure.
Trying to win your fantasy league. So it's so interesting to me that movie, and Jonah Hill makes it. And Jonah Hill,
he's great.
He's the nerd who maybe never an athlete, but
sure,
he figures this out, or he helps Beane figure it out.
I have to give Billy credit, though, because he is a great evaluator of talent. What he always does is he picks up a guy who is a high draft pick who is not doing well somewhere else. And like Scott Hatterberg, and he made him a first baseman. I never forget when he picked up Scott Hatterberg, everybody's like, wait a second, Scott Hatterberg's not a first baseman. Made Scott Hatterberg into a first baseman. It worked. Because he said, oh, he's a catcher. He's going to block everything. And Scott Hatterberg had some amazing seasons for us. And Billy's a genius in that respect. I just don't think, never going out and signing the big stud free agent down the stretch when sometimes you need a horse get you over the top, and that's my big complaint every year with the A's. I know they don't have the money, but geez,
Yeah.
got to go sign a horse in late July. Got to do it.
But that's, how sports have changed, right?
Sure.
It's like big money is
Sure.
involved. So how do you, how do you beat the
Sure.
big market teams? Well, analytics. You have technology now that
Sure.
crunches all this data,
Sure.
and that's kind of, that's how he did it. He's had a lot of success there.
Oh, it's great. He's a
No
genius.
championship yet.
Killing me.
I'm sure it is, but like I said, they've had great seasons, right?
Oh, we're good every year. We're good every year. For pretty
So
much.
they didn't win the Oscar, but they've had some magical runs.
Yeah, oh yeah, they've been good for many years, and that's why I always go back. I mean, this year we lost a couple of top guys. We just don't believe in re-signing those guys, but I understand that. But geez, just go out and get me a horse for 2 months in July, will you please? All right, so number 9, what do we got?
Number 9, I have The Natural.
Oh, I love The Natural.
And again, this list is very personal to me. It shows the romantic side of baseball
Sure.
and sports.
Sure.
There's not a bad looking shot in the movie.
Yeah.
And I'll share the screen for a second. It's just one of those movies, you grow up and
Sure.
it is so romantic. And of course, I love the part where he strikes out the whammer.
Oh yeah.
Because obviously that's Babe Ruth.
Sure.
And then, I have a funny story about this movie. I saw the movie and then I read the book.
Okay.
And by the way, this movie is directed by Barry Levinson. Okay, you might know him. Diner, Bugsy, Good Morning Vietnam, Rain Man.
Oh wow.
Also wrote. He was a writer on the Carol Burnett Show and also wrote And Justice for All. So,
great movie.
Again, this guy, masterful filmmaker. But The Natural, I saw the movie and then I read the book in Smithtown. I was sitting in the high school library.
Oh wow.
And I get to the end of the book and the main character strikes out. In the movie, he hits a home run and crashes the lights.
Right,
In the book, he strikes out, and I'm going, what do you mean he strikes out? But it would have made a great movie still. It's a more poignant ending because the kid who strikes him out,
right,
is a left-handed pitcher, farm boy,
right,
just like he was,
right,
and it's really poignant ending. So,
right.
But I'll never forget that moment.
Oh yeah, well, The Natural is such a great movie. I mean, he takes the top, he hits the ball, and he breaks it.
Right.
Love the coaches whistling in the dugout before the game. Good stuff.
And the psychiatrist, losing is a disease. There's a lot of great moments.
And the beautiful Kim Basinger doesn't hurt either.
Yeah, it's just great. I know you have like some of the best looking people.
Yes. My mom loves Robert Redford. She used to watch The Natural all the time.
It doesn't matter. He looks like he's 40 when he's supposed to be 19.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
My mom's like, it's Robert Redford. We're watching. That's number 9. That's excellent choice.
Number 8, Karate Kid.
Oh, yes.
Now, that's probably controversial, but I did pick it for a number of reasons. I think martial arts is underrated as a sport. It's a sport anybody can play. Again, learn a lot about yourself. Hell yeah. And also directed by John Alvinson.
Okay.
Who directed Rocky.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, Rocky's on my list. I'll tell you where that stands, but he's the only director who's made the top 10 twice in my list.
Wow.
Yes. And, the other thing I was thinking about, talking about universal themes, right?
Sure.
Beating the bully.
Right.
Rising above tough circumstances, all this stuff. But also Mr. Miyagi.
Oh, yes.
I mean, everyone has their Mr. Miyagi, right? Whether it's a coach or a teacher or a sponsor or,
sure,
a brother or a sister. And then, as you get older, you try to be Mr. Miyagi for other people. But,
sure.
But that was a magical relationship there.
The other thing about the reason it should be on the list too is it's like that movie has a genre about it. It's created things. I mean, like there's not a man over 35 in the faculty room at work. Any one of us could go in there and sing all the funny songs that are in that movie, and we could quote any line. Every guy in there knows that movie, and plus Cobra Kai is wildly successful.
Yeah.
It's created like it has its own little world, its own little universe. To me, that's the epitome of a great movie.
Yeah, it has lasting power. That's another thing that the movies on this list too, they all have
Yeah.
that lasting power, you know.
I mean, look at Shaka Khan. He's big into the karate.
He loves it. Oh yeah, he's big martial arts. Look,
Yeah, Sean.
karate, the popularity of karate increased. I don't know the numbers, but I just read
Sure.
about it from that movie, and I think martial arts is a great discipline.
Sure.
Just to, you know,
Yeah. It's plus
it's
again,
very
Elizabeth
important.
Elizabeth Shue doesn't hurt either.
And then yeah,
One of
that's
my favorites.
and I'm so glad she came back in Cobra Kai.
Oh, me too. Me too.
I was waiting for that moment the whole series.
Me too. You can tell it's
Um,
not going to work out between them, though. So that's all right.
that's okay.
What
That's
do you
fine.
got?
Well, look, that's what sports teaches us too. It's like, hey,
Sure.
sometimes sometimes
Sometimes
you
you
don't
miss.
win. Sometimes you don't get the girl. But
What do you have for number 7?
all right, number 7, The Wrestler.
Awesome. Great.
Again, some people like, all right, that's not a sport, but
It is.
these guys do to their bodies,
Oh, it's amazing.
and yeah, I thought it was incredible. And I think Darren Aronofsky is a really gifted filmmaker.
Sure.
Of course, directed Black Swan, The Fountain, Requiem for a Dream,
Sure.
Pi, of course.
Right.
Um, yeah, I know Darren, and but that movie is just, there's something about it, and it's also, I love movies that where the behind the scenes, the art imitates life,
Right.
and you got the comeback
Sure.
of Mickey Rourke,
Yes.
and he's had his struggles, and it's all about that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's sort of those magical things where he is perfect for that role, and what he did to his body to prepare for that role is, you
Wow.
know, it's
What
what
do
those guys go through, and
you had to train hard, huh?
well, train and other things, and but it's I love the relationship story, and like I said, I think Aronofsky is a really gifted filmmaker.
Sure. The funny thing is, I know like basketball season and wrestling season always mirror each other, so we share the gym. I can't think of any more pressure than a wrestler feels waiting to walk on the mat by themselves. Uh,
Yeah, and the wrestler, it's professional wrestling, so it's
sure.
like it's scripted,
Sure.
but but
Still
that there's a
pressure.
lot of that athleticism there, and
Oh
and
yeah.
it's entertainment, which sports ultimately is,
Sure. It's still pressure there. I
and
always have
pressure, very physical, and
tremendous
pressure
respect
to
for it.
succeed, pressure to make a living,
Sure. I
and in a really difficult world,
and what other sport? I know it's different with high school wrestling. What other sport do you have to earn your starting spot every week? You have to have a wrestle off to start.
Yeah, right.
So you could be the best and have a bad day. You don't go out there. So like it's a tremendous pressure, even if it's scripted or not. To me, it's such pressure to perform at that on that sports level.
Yeah, and I read a story that Roddy Piper,
Right.
after he saw the movie, he hugged Mickey Rourke, and he was sobbing in tears
Wow.
about, I can't believe someone told this
Yeah.
story, the behind the scenes of what goes on the the lower levels of pro wrestling, like
Sure.
not Hulk, a lot of guys aren't Hulk Hogan or The
Right.
Rock, you
Right.
know. Um, so
Yeah. Great
that
stuff.
was
I remember watching that as a kid on Viacom Channel 6 before we had cable, and Chief Jay Strongbow, Ivan Putski,
yeah,
Bruno Sammartino. Those guys
yeah.
are the best.
If you're a sports fan, you used to be into that. So that was 7.
It's great. That's a great choice. Number 6. What do you have?
Number 6, The Sandlot.
Oh yes.
Sandlot to me, that's another one of those movies it's very personal.
Sure.
I'll tell you why. When I moved from Comac to Smithtown in the winter of 7th grade,
Okay.
and that's about how old these guys are, maybe a bit younger.
Sure.
But I never, and baseball was my whole life back then, but I never really felt like I belonged until the spring of that year
Right.
when I had made the baseball team as a 7th grader. I think there were only 2. I think it was me and Mike Brady.
Right.
Mike Brady, he's my Benny Rodriguez.
Right.
He went pro too.
Exactly.
It was awesome.
Right.
But that movie, universal themes, and I had a Sandlot when I was growing up in Comac,
Sure.
and we played the kids from Dick Sills.
Right.
And I don't know if maybe in my imagination, the Dick Sills kids were the rich kids. And yeah, we gave them a beating,
Right.
just like Sandlot. It wasn't exactly like that. Eventually, we split up the teams just
Right.
to have fun. But so I really relate to that movie,
Yeah.
and just those nights, when it's getting dark and you're running home,
Yep.
back home with your mitt in
Yep.
hand, and
Yeah.
Fourth
We used
of
to play.
July,
Yeah.
summer, all
Pick
of
up
it.
baseball.
And then you meet lifelong friends. Like I met you in ninth grade.
Exactly.
And guys you play sports with, those are your,
Yeah.
those become you're in the trenches with those guys. And
Yeah.
that movie just really.
Yeah. I know what you're saying. I mean, I came from St. Patrick's in Smithtown here. I didn't go to New York Avenue. So when I walk in the door in ninth grade, I only know Tom Schilling, our other buddy. I don't know anybody else. So it wasn't really until tryouts of baseball season in the spring that I
Yeah.
got to meet everybody. Because
Yeah,
I didn't know
it's
anybody,
just-
but baseball's a whole life. And, believe it or not, there is pickup baseball. We used to do it at Maple Avenue right near your old house there. I mean, you just meet up with people and we just play.
Yeah, it was great. And those are some of the best memories I have of playing
Sure.
baseball, when you just pure fun.
Oh, yeah. It's the best ever.
Nothing like it.
It's
So,
the only reason I would go back in time is to play more ball.
yeah, me too. 100%.
So that's number 7. Is that
All
number
right.
7?
Well, that was number 6. Okay.
6, my bad. All right.
And number 5, I know you're gonna love this one.
Okay.
Now we're getting to the top 5.
Uh-oh.
Hoosiers.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Very personal.
I'm sure that's very personal, so I'll let you talk about that. For me, Gene Hackman. It's got everything the sports movie
Sure. Well,
should have, right?
Gene.
And Gene Hackman, he's like, that's like bringing LeBron onto your team. It's like,
Yes.
you put Gene Hackman in a movie, it goes, like them and Denzel and all these guys. So,
It's
what do you think of Hoosiers?
Well, I did a little research, and Gene Hackman, before he played the coach in that movie, the great coach, didn't really know anything about basketball. I remember saying that he was a little nervous about this. I was reading a little info about that, but he did a great job. And as a person who watched that, it's funny, I watched that movie probably 5 times a season. I schedule myself like before a big game or before or after a season to try to motivate myself. I put that movie on all the time. It's Bobby Plump is the Jimmy Chipwick. Great story. And the team that they beat in the finals has Oscar Robinson on it. Indiana recently, unfortunately, stopped the tournament procedure of putting all the different schools in the same classification, which I guess is fair, but at the same time, it takes away that Cinderella moment. But I love Shooter in the movie. I think he brings so much to it, the personal struggle with him. But Gene Hackman in the movie, like you said, it's just such a great movie. And I have to say, when Jimmy Chipwick says at the end, when he's drawing up a play to decoy and none of the kids want to take the shot, and Jimmy Chipwick says, "I'll make it," the hair on my arm goes up. It's just unbelievable. And
as a coach, is that your number 1?
Yes, for me, that's my number 1.
Right, I thought so.
Just because it has so much personal, but there's so many 1As on this list. I have trouble with it, but that movie, it makes the hair on my arm go up. But that's one of my favorites. Yep, there he is.
It's one of the greats.
It is, and it's amazing. You don't see a lot of the young men on the team in any other movies either. It's one of those moments where I always look for actors in one movie where I find them in another movie.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like I said, I was watching Friday Night Lights last night, and Lucas Black and Billy Bob Thornton.
Right.
Lucas Black's the quarterback, Billy Bob's the coach. They were in Sling Blade together.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Lucas was a little kid, yeah. And it was great to see them together, even though it did not make my list, but that's okay.
Yeah, great movie.
All right, I thought that would be your number 1.
That's one of my favorites.
That's not why I put it on the list, but
that's okay.
5 for me.
Okay, number 4. What do you got?
Slapshot.
Oh, yes.
And I'll tell you, I was curious to know if I watched it again, would it be boring or dated or something? It's not. It's a solid movie. It will stand the test of time. I know hockey fans. I have a friend who's a hockey fan. He watches Slapshot before every Stanley Cup Finals. And I know why. It's not, some of the movies are dated, and the pace of the movies in the 70s is a lot different than it is now.
Sure.
That movie's incredible, and it's a movie that would never get made today because of the way they talk about women in the movie. However, the female characters in that movie are the strongest characters.
Strong women, yeah.
In the entire movie.
Sure.
But that movie doesn't get made today for all the right reasons. But it's almost like the Caddyshack of hockey in a way.
Yes.
Just the opening scene with the interview with the goalie
Yeah.
talking about ice sticking, and then you go in the penalty box and you feel shame. I started watching and I'm like, okay, I get it. It's not just about the Hanson brothers foiling up.
Sure.
It's a big, and then of course you have. Hold on, I'm going to get this. Of course you have probably the the best looking guy in
Yeah.
the
My
history
mom.
of filmmaking, Paul Newman.
Yeah.
And a lot of these movies have just great actors.
Yeah. Paul Newman.
So Newman really kind of he holds the movie together.
Yeah.
He's so great, but there's a lot of slapstick and
Yeah.
slap shot, and it works.
But the Hansons talking about putting on the foil and Eddie Shore and old time hockey.
It's timeless. You look at it, you look at the guys playing hockey without masks, and
Yep.
they got the big hairdos. It's really great. It's great to see. I that's one I recommend watching again.
Yeah.
Because people, they're enamored with the idea of Slapshot, right?
Right.
Watch the movie; it's good. And I'll tell you, the director George Roy Hill. Talk about movies that come together. He's done a bunch of them. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid,
Yes.
Slaughterhouse Five, The Sting, The World According to Garp. George Roy Hill is a great filmmaker.
Sure.
He's one of those guys when you put together a good movie, everything comes together and it makes a great movie. But when a director does it numerous times, then you got to look at the director and go, all right, this guy knows how to make the magical movie.
Yeah. The Sting, one of my favorites.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So that's number 4.
Great. What do you got for number 3 there, boss?
Number 3 on my list is Caddyshack.
Oh yes, great flick.
And again, it's the movie. It's funny. 2 of my top 3 are not about those universal themes of picking yourself up
Sure.
off the mat.
Sure.
But it's so funny, and there are so many iconic lines and roles, and you just
Rodney's unbelievable.
it's so classic. And of course, the best part I think is Ted Knight.
Look at that face.
He's too funny in this movie, and he cracks me up every time I see it. He's
Me too.
just hilarious.
Noonan.
And he's got the movie just has so many giant comedic actors, and of course Harold Ramis directed it.
Sure.
Who directed so many great comedies and was it just nails it. So many one-liners.
Yeah,
you can't get around it.
No, it's so funny. That movie is made, and I know a lot of people always give one of my favorite singers, Kenny Loggins, grief because he made so many movie songs.
Right.
That song, I'm All Right. That movie comes out when I'm 12, and that song speaks to you when you're 12 or 13 because you're starting to spread your wings a little bit, and your parents are like, hey, how you doing, is everything all right? And you're at that age where you kind of starting to break away from your parents a little bit, and you don't want to be hanging out with them. But so that song, if you listen to the words to that song, every time I hear that song, I never pass it. And I know it's a cheesy song, but
it's a great song.
A great song because it speaks to anybody who is that age when that song came out. When you're 12 or 13, those words, I'm all right, don't nobody worry about me, is something that's important to you.
And that's a movie too. As a movie fan, other than a movie critic, as a movie fan, that's one that I can never turn off. And I love golf.
Sure.
And everything about it. It's a movie that comes together in all the right ways on a comedic level.
Sure.
With all the great comedic actors and
Bill Murray, unbelievable.
Bill Murray, Rodney, Ted Knight, and Chevy Chase. It just goes on and on.
Now, I heard that Bill Murray and Chevy Chase did not get along, and so that them shooting that scene together in Bill Murray's apartment, if you call it that, was not easy for them. But that was just something I read somewhere. I forget where I read it, but
they have a history of not getting along,
I guess.
Yeah, but I think they've patched things up over the years.
Sure, I hope so. Life's too short.
Yeah, they're not best friends, but it's water under the bridge.
What's the next one?
All right, number 2.
Number 2.
Raging Bull.
Oh yes, I love this.
And I put that in there because, we're talking about not great sports movie ideas,
right?
But great, movies.
Yes.
And Raging Bull, Scorsese is just
Genius.
so skilled as a filmmaker. It stands the test of time. Like I
Yep.
was saying, a lot of these movies, they're a bit dated,
Sure.
but not that. That was 1980. You look back you watch that now and you go, this is incredible.
Yeah.
And I think Scorsese, in 100 years, people are going to talk about him the way we talk about, I don't know, Mozart or Picasso.
Sure.
He's just so skilled filmmaker.
Sure.
That movie too, it's kind of the anti-Rocky film,
Sure.
but it's so well put together. It's so ahead of its time. De Niro's only Oscar,
Yes.
and
He's only got one Oscar.
yeah,
How can that be?
he's been nominated a bunch, but I
Oh
think
my goodness. How could that be? Oh my
I know,
goodness.
but what he did for that, I mean, it's an amazing performance. And again, when I look at all the things that come together in a movie, right? He won the Oscar for editing, the directing, the music, the photography, the performances, the production design, everything about it is just off the charts. Great.
The I don't know why, but the part of the movie where, like, maybe it's the credits rolling, where he's dancing with his robe on and his hood up in the rain and the snow. That just
Yeah.
always gets to me, that part. And there's nothing going on. It's like slow motion, him just getting loose.
Yeah,
But
it's the opening. Yeah, it's the opening credits.
it really
And,
speaks to you.
it really does. And Roger Ebert put Raging Bull in his top 10 movies of all time.
Wow.
That's pretty high praise.
The other thing about it, I guess I've grown to love over the years. My dad, a giant boxing fan. I don't know if you remember, Dad used to have everybody over the house. We watch all those boxing matches when boxing
Yes.
was still
And
big. But yeah,
Muhammad Ali
yep,
documentaries.
yep. And Dad's favorite was Sugar Ray Robertson, and he used to tell me stories about Sugar Ray and Jake LaMotta all the time. And so that's like when somebody who's older than you tells you something about history, someone you never saw, it always has it always makes the hair on your arm stand up a little more, because now when you see what they saw, except they saw it in real time, I'm seeing it on a movie, like it always brings it something extra to you. And so him talking about Sugar Ray and like I said, just incredible. Jake LaMotta just never take no for an answer in the ring, and just, you never knock me down, Ray. Just incredible stuff.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And there's De Niro, and there's young Marty,
Wow.
the master.
Wow.
And I got to work with Scorsese on a number of projects. I started out working in his office as like I guess like a runner. I would do odd jobs and
Sure.
deliveries and stuff like that. And he's a very private guy, but I can't say I got to know him really well, but I got to work on Casino and Boardwalk
Love that
Empire,
movie.
of course. That's how we won the Emmy Awards for visual effects in Boardwalk Empire.
Wow.
And I've been a fan of his for so long. Goodfellas is it's in my top 3 all-time great movies.
Right.
And he's just such a masterful filmmaker. And his topics are personal to him.
Sure.
So they're not, universal. Like I said, not really universal themes always, but
Yeah.
so skilled as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's number 2.
Wow. And now number 1, do we need a drum roll, or what do you think?
No, you probably guessed it by now.
No, I haven't.
It's got to be Rocky.
Okay, Rocky.
Me,
Right.
Rocky's the gold standard. It's the gold standard. It's so interesting. Again, it's personal to me. You look back on it and you can find flaws
Sure.
in the film, but the universal themes, the underdog, it came at a time when, let's see, that was 76. I probably saw it. I didn't see it in the theater. I probably saw that movie when I was 9 or 10, I think. And it was right when I was, I starting to train, started to love movies, love sports. I love training.
Sure.
I always have. And just the underdog factor. It's the ultimate underdog movie. And
Sure.
of course, there's Adrian, and she's an underdog.
Yeah.
Paulie's an underdog. Mickey's an underdog. And it's just, it's a magical movie. And also going back to the art imitating life, the story about Stallone, down on his luck, going to see Muhammad Ali fight Chuck Wepner.
Wow.
He was TKO'd in the 15th, but he didn't get knocked out.
Wow.
the champion. And of course, Apollo Creed he's Muhammad Ali.
Sure.
And also he comes in the ring wearing the Uncle Sam outfit. And that's, you can look at it so many ways, that movie. And it could be America sometimes beats you down.
Yep. Sure.
And,
Yeah.
you got to fight back. You got, like he says, like, he just he doesn't want to be a loser anymore.
Sure.
And it's a great, and some of the greatest scenes too are not the fight scenes. The training scenes are great.
Sure.
I mean, if you don't feel something when he's
Sure.
climbing the steps,
Yep.
And finally makes it, it's just so great.
Yep. Yeah, it's great.
Some of the best scenes are, the scenes with Adrian, her in the pet shop, and then there's a great scene when Mickey learns that Rocky gets a shot.
Yep.
And he goes to his apartment and says, "I want to be your trainer." And
Yep.
Rocky goes, "Yeah, I got no locker."
Yeah. Yep.
You just kicked me out of your gym.
Sure.
And then the best part of that scene, though, is when Rocky goes in the bathroom and shuts the door on him. Great metaphor, right? And Mickey's finally leaves, and you see the old man walking down the steps.
Yep.
The best part of that scene is when Mickey walks down the block. There's not a word of dialogue.
Right.
And you see Rocky come out of his apartment. He just puts his arm around him. Beautiful.
And
not a word is said.
And the beauty of that is that if he didn't go get him, he would have got crushed in that fight.
Yeah, exactly. And he's the Mr. Miyagi in a way.
But it's funny. Rock was the guy that came around. So the student actually forgave the teacher, which usually the teacher has to teach the student how to forgive. And he did, I guess, kind of, but Rocky forgave. And what about my prime? Mick always sticks to me when he says to Mick, what about my prime? I never had a prime, but the other thing, me and Catherine were watching it the other night. The other scene, they portray Rocky, of course, it's as not an intelligent guy, but the conversation he has with the girl in the beginning of the movie when he's walking her home, you could tell he is intelligent. He just didn't know how to present.
Right.
And you can see how smart he actually is in the conversation.
Yeah. And he has a heart. Like when he goes, he's supposed to break the fingers of the guy who owes Gazzo money, but he can't do it. He's got a big heart. He can't do it. So that's
should have planned ahead.
Yeah, and that's what it takes in the end. He's got a big heart.
Yep, when he gets up off the mat in that last round there, holy mackerel.
Yeah, it's just great. It's just, and the music too. Look, I'm 52 years old. I still listen to that theme song in the gym sometimes.
Sure.
When it's like I'm looking at the clock going, oh, I've been here a while. I should go. Sure. And then I'm 52 and I still listen to that.
That's right.
That soundtrack may be the greatest of all time.
Sure, it's a wonderful soundtrack. Did you have any movies that you really hated to cross off? Any couple? If you have a couple of maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah, there were a couple. I really liked I, Tonya.
Yes.
It fell a little bit short, and I can't quite put my finger on it. I think maybe it got caught up a little bit too much in the dark comedy of it.
Sure.
But I think that was really well done. Again, Friday Night Lights was another one, really close, didn't quite make it. And I was really trying to put a football movie on here, and I really love Jerry Maguire.
Sure.
But there's something. The one thing about that movie that gets me is, they talk about one of the themes is the love of sports, right? That's how he's going to get the contract.
Sure.
He loves the sport, but then in the end, he does like a show. He dances and he does a show, and
kind of ruined.
It's kind of like the commercialism in the film somehow butts heads with that main theme that they're trying to promote. That was the only thing that kept it off the list. I love the movie though. Cruise is great. Cuba Gooding Jr. is fantastic.
Sure. For me, the hardest ones for me to not be on a top 10, and I love the top 10 list we just had there. Miracle, because I remember. Oh yeah. Miracle. I remember watching that movie over February break from the being 12 years old, having the whole neighborhood in our house watching that Olympic game there, and it was on tape delay. And back then, I was an addict of sports phone because I'm still a sports addict. And I remember my dad saying, "If you call sports phone, I'm throwing you out of the house." And the dad's like, "Nobody's switching the channel to the news because then the score is going to pop up because that game was over."
Wow.
Like, we're not doing that. He's like, nobody in here find out. And we had like 30 people in the playroom. I'm still living in that house now, as you know.
Do you
And
think he knew?
no, he didn't know. And
Wow.
my dad, not a big hockey fan, but he was dad's American through and through, served and red, white, and blue. And oh my goodness. And we won we won that game. Everybody went out in the street and we were banging pots and pans for like 3 hours with no coats on. It's February, it's freezing. And it's one of those nights where I remember, like, I don't know, my parents, like, when you're a kid, you don't understand it, but my parents let us be out there like 12. I'm running around the street all night. They understood like the moment. I didn't. I was just like, I'm gonna have a good time. But they probably didn't call us in because of that. It was just a great night. I mean, plus it's about the Cold War.
May be the greatest American sports moment.
Yeah, and I can't think of a bigger upset. I mean, just incredible upset. That movie was. Plus, we teach nationalism and we teach the Cold War. We always show, and I mean, do you know the actual Herb Brooks line to his team before the last game?
No.
You know that story? It's he says he walks in there. He doesn't even give a pregame speech after they beat the Russians. They still have another game left, and this is so true. And I've said this before. He said basically, if you don't win this game, you'll take it to your effing grave. That's all he said. He didn't talk about anything else. Because you're right. Like, no one's going to remember you beating the Russians if you don't come out here and finish the job.
Wow.
And he's so right. If you don't win this game, you'll take it to your effing grave. And I'll tell you what, man, he is 1,000% right, because when you don't ring the bell and you get in the championship, and that's something that you never get past. Even if you win 10 more, you just don't get past it. So, like,
a lot of people don't know that. They thought that was for the gold medal, but it wasn't.
No, and so that's a great movie. I love Cinderella Man for the Great Depression and
great
historical reference. And my dad used to always talk about Jim Braddock and how much respect he had for him. So when that movie came out, I mean, I know you worked on that. It's such a great movie. We show that in school for all the Great Depression stuff. Remember the Titans we show for, like, obviously civil rights issues in school. It's just so many things we can use scenes from. It makes it come to life for the kids. The Fighter, such a great movie.
Fighter's a great one too. And
movie gets left off, no one mentioned, but I love, is Radio.
That's interesting. I read about that.
Such a great movie. It's got Ed Harris.
Yep.
And of course got Cuba Gooding Jr. And that gentleman just passed away recently in Hanna High School in South Carolina. When I lived down in South Carolina, Hanna's athletics is huge. So that movie always sticks with me too. But what else you got that you could had a tough time leaving off? Anything else?
Oh, there were so many movies. Like I said, my qualifiers eliminated a bunch. The Costner movies.
Sure.
Again, really close. I love watching them.
Sure.
They just did not make the final list. There was
$1 Million Baby was tough for me.
Which one?
$1 Million Baby.
$1 Million Baby was very close.
I have to tell you though, I can't even watch the last 20 minutes of that movie. I only watched the first hour and a half, and I leave. I can't watch it. I thought I was going to put A League of Their Own on there. Sure, great movie.
Missed the mark a little bit. Again, one of my favorite writers, Lowell Gans, Bob Lou Mandel.
Sure.
From the Ron Howard Happy Days camp.
Yes.
It was close. It was close. It was a little too jokey. I don't know what it was. Great topic.
Sure.
I thought it could have been. It didn't all come together for me.
Sure. There's so many great movies. Like you said, it's a hard list to make. It's like when people always argue, like, who's better, two of the greatest players of all time. You say to yourself, well, you're not criticizing one to not say they're as good as somebody else. You just,
right.
Yeah. It's like my dad, I said, my dad would talk about baseball players. Like, well, is he Babe Ruth? I go, well, no, Dad, he's not, but he's still a great player.
It's like the football movies that came really close. There were a lot of really good ones, but they didn't hit the walk-off homer.
Yeah, like Rudy to me, when the guy who's in charge of the field tells him his personal story about how he didn't walk back out on that field and he regrets it every day of his life, and just incredible moving scenes in that movie. And that music is, Jerry Goldsmith. I still, before practice, sometimes pump in the Hoosiers music before practice.
Great composer.
The Hoosiers music, in 2007, before every playoff game, the kids are in the gym about 15 minutes before, I put on the Hoosiers soundtrack. We just let it play.
Nice.
And I remember all the people, like, as we kept winning, like Newsday and other newspapers, like, you're really playing Hoosiers for practice? I go, come on in. It's on every day. And the guy's like, isn't that hokey? I go, no,
that is awesome.
not.
I love it. I love it. Well, like you say, you carry some of these movies into real life,
Sure,
like the Rocky theme, which
sure.
and people probably find really silly, but
Yeah.
those movies, they
Whatever gets you, whatever speaks to you, and whatever motivates you, it works.
exactly, you learn something about yourself too when you watch some movies. That's why we watch them.
Any before I let you go, one more question. Any dark horse movies that you think people might not realize their greatness? I got a couple.
Well, one of them was in my list, which was The Wrestler.
Right.
I think that movie somehow is forgotten, maybe because people don't consider it a sport.
Sure.
But
Sure.
it's not only a great story about, the physical part of it,
Sure.
and the redemption story, and
Sure.
trying to make something of yourself as low as you can be. Um, I think that's one that I don't know if people would put that on the list,
Right.
but I do like the filmmaking. It's so well done. Aronofsky is a great filmmaker.
I know.
What about you?
For 1977, I got this movie One on One. It's a really, it's really cheesy. The music is awful, but One on One with Robbie Benson.
I know the movie. Yeah.
Uh, it's so accurate in how sometimes they do try to run players off. I've been there, and it's so wrong to do when you have a kid who's, I always look at it this way. You made a purchase to buy, and now you bought the wrong car. Well, that's on you, coach. And I've seen that happen. So they don't run them off quite the same way, but running the stairs and stuff like that, they'll try
Mhm.
to run you off that way. I've seen it. And that's
Wow.
the least side of sports that people don't talk about. But and another one, I thought 61 was a great movie. The Struggle
The one was great.
was, and your guy Costner here, for the love of the game, the getting back in and out of that game within the script of the movie. I mean, I'm not a movie person like yourself. I just watch them. But the way they show the great scenes of the game, and the pitcher is talking to himself the whole game, and by gosh, as a former pitcher, that's all you do.
Yeah.
You talk to yourself every second in your head out loud. You don't even care what anybody else thinks. But and then to all of a sudden to cut back into a scene about the relationship he has, and it's just, I thought it was just I can't think of another movie that hops back in and back and forth to that level. I really
It
enjoyed.
was great. And Billy Crystal made that movie, and of course he's a big Yankee fan.
Sure.
I felt his heart was in that movie, and again,
Sure.
it was close. It was very close. Another one that was close, 42.
Yes.
And I thought the movie, it was a little flat
Sure.
emotionally. I'm not sure what that was, but great performance. It had a lot of those elements that make a great movie, but it didn't quite rise to that level. And I don't think the Jackie Robinson story has been made in a great way yet.
Right.
I think someone will do it. That didn't do it for me.
Right.
And it's an amazing story, obviously important for so many reasons.
Sure.
Um, but I think someone's gonna make that the right way, where it's gonna put it into this category
Sure. Sure.
one day.
I know The Rookie is a good one for me too. I mean, that's a great story. Such and so inspirational. I remember him as a pitcher. So that's just, to me, is like, I don't know. He does it for his kids, and his high school players hold him accountable. And when you're a teacher and a coach, the players always have something on you. And you have to let them have it. It's a very important part of a relationship. So like, I don't know, like, sometimes you have to get a certain haircut if you win this amount of games, or you
Right.
do it. I mean,
Yeah.
I've walked onto the team bus with, crazy colored, rags on top of my heads because teams have won games and the kids are just howling, and
That's great.
you have to give them a part of you. You can't just be this wall all the time. And I know in the old days you could get away with the wall and just beat the wall, but now you have to interact. If
Yeah.
like it's a different world as far as that goes. And so
That's why we love in movies, we love the great, the Mickey or the Mr. Miyagi. We love those mentors.
sure,
A lot of these movies have the great mentor,
sure,
which we all have in life.
sure. It's just a wonderful thing. And that movie is always speaks to me. Concussion was great.
Another good one.
And I really liked both Creeds. I
I
really
love
enjoyed.
Creed. I thought Creed was great. The only reason Creed didn't make the list was that it's so similar to Rocky, and
Sure.
it got a lot of things right in the sports movie. You know,
Sure.
but yeah, that's another one. Really close. If there was no Rocky, then Creed would be it.
And one from Catherine Love and Basketball. It's a great
That's a great
story.
one too.
It's a great movie, and I tell you, that movie is dead accurate too in a lot of ways. And you see the struggle with the knee injury, and
Yep.
sheesh, it's rough. And now I know this is a real cheesy one I'm going to throw at you here, but you know, The Program was a good movie.
Yeah,
I know
that was
it had
great
some
one.
cheesiness and it was over the top, and it just but it had some great parts to it. The pressure on the kid up for the Heisman. I think that's
Yep.
one of the biggest problems we have today. The pressure on these guys with the social
So
media
do I.
stuff.
That's why I really loved Friday Night Lights. It
Yeah,
really, like I said, it didn't get crack the top 10, but
sure,
man, it's really, you really feel for those kids who are, and you probably see it a lot.
sure,
And I guess now that sports, there's so much money to be made,
sure.
and there's probably more pressure
You gonna win
than
state?
ever before. Yeah, got to win state the whole town.
Gotta win state? What are you nuts? That's a hell of a bar.
I know.
You know, like anything can happen and we might not win state.
Of course, it's like you go to make a great movie and you have all the ingredients. Sometimes it doesn't work,
Yeah,
and
but
sometimes there's no reason for it.
I would love to see that movie made with like a modern day football team because I think the sports parenting is even worse today.
Yeah, I think the really great the really great football movie has yet to be made.
Wow. Yeah.
At least modern day. Again, I'm not talking pre 75.
Yeah.
There are some great ones, but
I guess the last one I have, and everybody probably knows it, is Invincible because you see the strike in Philadelphia with the workers at the Westinghouse plant. And we talk about that in school with the need for labor unions and things of that nature. And we talk about that all throughout American history, but also just the personal struggle of he's
yeah.
down and out.
Yeah, Invincible again has all the themes. It fell a little bit short for me,
Yep,
but
yep.
That's again a great movie, great football movie.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't a bad movie on this list, and altogether, I know between you and I think we had 50 movies that we could have put in here. It's so hard.
I know it's really tough to narrow it down, but that's the fun of it. It's like
Yeah, that's the beauty.
like the top who are the top basketball players of all time.
Sure.
Everyone has a different list.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. So that's something that is it's just amazing. So, but anything else we want to add before we say
I think
adios?
that's it. I do want to say maybe maybe I'll crack the list. I'm trying to do a movie about the 1936 Olympics.
Awesome.
And not the Jesse Owens story, but about the politics and the athletes.
Sure.
And it's an amazing story. So maybe one day I'll crack the list. I'll crack the shoes list.
That'd be awesome because that's a topic that we talk about that all the time. We're not up to the 30s yet in American history, but we'll be getting there shortly.
It's a timeless story and it has all the elements.
Yeah, that one. The Great Olympic movie was Munich. I don't know if I'm sure you saw
Yes,
that.
Munich was great too.
That one spoke to the Olympics, and that movie just cuts you emotionally when you watch it. But yes, I wanted to thank you for coming on.
Shoes, it's been a pleasure.
And tell Di and the kids. Well, now they're adults. We said hello. So
and they're all sports fans and movie fans.
Same
they're
here.
all athletes.
And hopefully the 4 March Madness games today that I'll be watching will be as fun as the ones yesterday. And
I'm sure you're right in the middle of your element right now.
Oh yeah, well, last Friday was great. This is the first day of the tournament. Get your jersey mics and you just settle in.
There you go. I'll be doing the same in a couple of weeks when the Masters is on.
Oh yeah, I don't even know anything about golf, but I love watching.
It's great. Golf season is here. Thank God.
I just watch for fun. But all right, so thanks for coming on, and we'll see you later.
Thank you.
Take care.